We've already looked at some of the built-in functions that are part of Sass, mainly the color-based functions. What we're going to do here is we're going to look at some of the other types of functions. In this example, I'm going to show you the length function and the nth function. The length function is going to return the length of a list, while the nth function is going to return a specific item in a list. Here's the page that we're going to be working on, and here's the existing code. The HTML is very simple. We just have an article with a paragraph and several divs, all with the class of box. In my box partial, you can see that I've defined 3 color variables, a yellow, an orange, and a green. I also still have my variables partial, which has my ocean blue color that we've been using in the last few exercises. I'm going to utilize that ocean blue as well, but I did define these new colors. We're going to use them here in this example. You can see that I'm using nth of type selectors and changing the background color on each of the 4 boxes. The first one's to blue, the second one yellow, orange, and then green. I'm going to show you how we can be more concise and also make something that's going to be more scalable if the number of boxes or the number of variables was to change. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, and it's going to be a list. You can actually create variables in Sass and define multiple variables by simply listing them sequentially together. So here I'm going to define a new variable called colors, and then I'm going to define my ocean blue, my yellow, my orange, and my green color. At this point I don't need any of these, but I'll just leave them here for reference. We could even comment them out since we're not going to be using them. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all of these nth of type selectors. So I'll delete this code. We don't need that code anymore. It is worth noting that when you use Sass and you're making a list of variables, you can separate the variables by spaces, or you could add commas. Either way would work just fine. So normally a Sass variable is simply just a list with one value. When we're dealing with multiple variable values, we're going to need to find out some information. The first thing we're going to need to know is how many items are in our list. We can use that by using the length function. I'm going to use the length function in conjunction with a for loop. So we'll start out by using the @for directive. Then I'm going to go ahead and make a variable that's just going to hold some values temporarily. So I'll just call this I for iteration. And I'm going to say that I want to loop through I from 1 through, and then I'm going to specify the length of the value of colors. Currently the value of colors is 4, but it might not always be 4. I might want to add more colors at a later time. So by using the length method, this will enable us to be a little bit more flexible. Then I need to say what's going to happen when the for statement has been looped through. So we're going to go ahead and use our .box, and then we'll use our nth of type pseudo class selector, and in parentheses I'm going to pass on a number sign, and then I'm going to open up curly braces, and I'm going to use the length function once again, and in parentheses I'm going to ask it to find the length of colors. I'll close the parentheses, I'm going to close the curly braces, and then I'm going to use n plus number sign, and in the curly braces I'm going to pass on the value of my I variable that we had just created in the last line. Once I show you this on the page, I'll show you what this produces. The last line that I need to specify here is what I want to have happen when the box has been iterated through. So we're going to go ahead and use background, and then we're going to specify the nth function, and then the nth function is going to take on arguments of colors, comma, I. Since the background property and value is a declaration of the box nth of type selector, I need to make sure I indent that as well. If I save my page and we look at it in the browser, the page should look identical to what it was before. Let me show you what's happening under the hood though. I'm going to open up the inspector so that I can show you some of the code. Here I'm selecting the 4th box, and you can see that it's taking on all of the box values that we specified. Background color has been crossed off, and that's because there's a more specific selector, background nth of type 4n plus 4, that is coloring the fourth box to be green. And the third box is 4n plus 3. So these values that are being generated are a result of the information that we've gathered from our length and our nth functions. The length function can be really handy when you're using with loops, as shown in this example. The nth function is going to enable us to grab a specific value from a list by its position in the list, from 1 to the list length. And it always is going to take two parameters: the list that we wish to search, in this case that's the color variable, and the position of the items that we want to retrieve. Used within a loop, we can make our CSS a lot more concise. You saw what I had before. Now my information is much more concise. I've reduced the amount of code that I can use. The other advantage is that if I change any of the information that I'm having here, it will automatically update. So I'm going to go into my index and I'm just going to add another box. We'll call this one box 5. And I'm going to go back into the box partial and I'm just going to add another color here. I'm not going to change anything in the loop. If I save my page and we refresh in the browser, you'll now see that we have a fifth box and it's been colored with the new color that's part of our variable list of values. So what we're doing here is we're looping through 1 through 5 and we're setting the background color in each element to whichever color is at position 1 through 5 in the color variable. As you can see, when we want to add another color, it makes it really easy to make changes to our page. This line of code right here is going to produce that box nth of type, and it's going to be producing, in this case, it would be something like 5n plus, and then I'm just going to use x here. X is going to be whatever number in our array that we have up here with the colors that's going to show. So if we went back into the code and we select any of these, you can see that it's 5n plus 3 for the third box, 5n plus 1. 5n is going to go to the fifth number and then it's going to add 1. And in this case, since there is no sixth box item, it'll go back to the first one. So 5n plus 2 is going to start the count at 5 and then take you to the second box. I find this to be really helpful and it enables me to make drier code. It enables my code to be more concise and more flexible.